everybody. Raul here for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the great honor and pleasure of chatting with bassist, vocalist, Merry Adin.
Hi. How are you?
Oh, doing great, hanging in here. We're talking in the middle of the pandemic, which gives us lots of time to chat online. Not so great for so many other things, but I digress. Going to the beginning, how did you get started in music and on bass?
Wow. My father he's a crooner back in the 30s and 40s. So he traveled on the road with a big band. And I was that little girl holding the tape recorder, just listening to my dad sing, recording my dad. Because he would sing at weddings and services and stuff. My dad was awesome. He was an opera singer.
Oh, wow.
And big band singer. Yeah, back in the day. But, back then, his name was probably as big as mine. So not many people knew him. He was a singer. My sister and I were singers. My brother was a singer, but he played drums. Mm-hmm. So there was a drum kit in the living room. So I picked up the drums and started on the drums, actually, instrument-wise. Yeah, since I was 5, my first singing group, New Penny Singers. I forgot all about that. I've been in singing groups since I was 5 and played drums in a band in the 80s, and that was the Sheila E. days. And I'd come out front and do the whole glamorous life and Love Bizarre little shtick, and I liked it out front. So we hired a drummer, and I stayed out front and still did the percussion stuff. But then I got bored. Because back then we were called token chick singers. Yeah. So, there's only so much percussion. I had like 10 different kinds of percussion that I'd bring with me because I didn't want to just be the singer. And I missed the rhythm section, but I didn't want to be stuck back on the drums anymore. Mm-hmm. So I decided I wanted to pick up the bass because it was still a part of the rhythm section. And so I'm happy I did. Yeah. I went from Karen Carpenter to Carole Kane.
Gotcha.
Bam. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
So I went from a singing drummer to a singing bass player. Mm-hmm. So I'm a singer that plays bass.
Which in itself is a very unique thing, and I have to say I'm always impressed because I can do one thing or the other. I'm terrible remembering even lyrics, so I'm happy to just play in the back. But if I had to do it, it's like scratching your head and rubbing your tummy. It's just these hard things to do both.
Yeah, I understand. I think it helped because I started on the drums, and that's 4 different limbs moving differently and vocals. So you learned how to pocket and position your brain. So it's like this one focuses here, that focuses here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I do know. Say the third note, second verse, I'm singing that thing.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It's like it's like rubbing your belly and patting your head.
It's amazing that it can be done. Now, are you self-taught or did you study bass with somebody?
I actually went to college for voice. I was I got a scholarship at UNR for vocals, and instrument thing that was high school. I played there, but mainly I was singing and drama, and so I was a vocalist. So that's where my training came. And then when I picked up the bass, I was on the road already. Mm-hmm. So we'd go into a town, and I'd find a bass player that I thought was super cool, and say, "Teach me that." Because I bought a book and a bass and a little practice amp, and I sat in my room and I started playing, but I wanted to learn different techniques, and I wanted to learn like this person's really famous for their style of this. Mm-hmm. Oh, I want to learn that style.
Yeah.
Or like I don't use a pick. I do a flutter, a finger flutter, and it's a different tone depending on which finger I use, and this one has more of a nail, so it's more of a pick sound. So, so I don't play with a pick. These are the only picks I have. They're on my neck.
They're decorative. Coming back to with you were on the road, you had, of course, the vocalist thing down, and predominantly, from what I see, you've been playing in the Vegas scene with a ton of groups, a ton of cover bands and stuff. And I think for people that have not been to Las Vegas, which now you can't probably go because of the pandemic, but it is a happening place where there's always music going on it was in multiple settings. So you could have bands playing as you were walking through the casino at the bar. You had the auditoriums where things were playing. You had stages that were set up for particular things.
Always.
All of the events. And so you were really kind of in the midst of what I refer to with the New York players as the hustle, because you had so many things. That was kind of the key to what you were doing, is that you weren't limited to just kind of one thing. So talk to us a little bit about what bands, all the different covers and things you were doing.
I am in so many different bands. I'm currently in 2 tribute acts, and one of them is the only endorsed Sammy Hagar tribute, 3 Lockbox, and that's super cool. So we got his personal endorsement, which is super rare. Mm-hmm. Nobody does that. We have that one. I have She Clips. That is the world's only all-female Journey tribute.
Okay.
And we're actually up for Best of Las Vegas for tribute acts. So that's kind of cool. That's very cool, actually. Yeah. I am in The Trust, which is a subsidiary of 3 Lockbox minus keys. We just do classic rock and some southern rock. And so that's super cool in that. The Vibe, that is a top 40 dance variety band. So we do everything from Usher and Imagine Dragons to Gretchen Wilson, and we just do everything.
Sure.
And then I'm with Cross Country Road, which is a country band. I love to play country and southern rock. I really do. So this is a all country. Mm-hmm. It's not, we'll do some John Cougar. No, it's all country. Even though a lot of country's mainstream right now and top 40, it's a great group. I'm in 2 duos and 1 trio. And the duo, it's like I play with Steve Heath, who's with the Sammy Hagar tribute. So it's the Adin and Heath duo. And then I play with Sweet Sherry Pie, which is a trio of women with tracks. So it's no drummer. It's just keyboards, bass, and tracks, and 3 vocalists. We play, I'm trying to keep myself versatile enough to work. Mm-hmm. And I was able to.
Yes.
For 33 years, I've been, always, this is what I've done. So, and Vegas was the perfect place to be, because you can go from an afternoon gig to an evening gig to a gig that starts at midnight. We used to hustle. That was our hustle at the time. And all the way up until mid-March, it's been our hustle.
Gotcha.
Perfect example of Vegas, I would say, is like Mandalay Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And I use Mandalay Bay because before all of this, they had the most music. So you could go from the front entrance, there's a little lounge, and you hear a jazz band. Mm-hmm. Then you go through, then there's a eye candy. So now that's like a little DJ area. And then you go to another lounge, and there's a top 40 band. And there's House of Blues. So there's B-side, there's a country band. And in Courtyard, there's an acoustic group. And then downstairs in the main lounge, there's a big metal band or something, or a big show, or Santana's playing, or, and so we had 7, 8 different genres of music in one casino. And that was about 5 casinos, at least, in town. Mm-hmm. Not to mention Fremont Street. The music here it's our life's blood. There's so many people, like 60% of Nevada is self-employed. And about, 45% of that are musicians mm-hmm. and entertainers and performers. And, and it's not just them. It's stage crew and costume and ushers and porters and the sales team, the marketing team. Everybody is part of the music. in Vegas. That's what I'm trying to get at. So when you take music away, that's all of us. We're a huge family out here. You know, we have a couple of movements, WEEC. That's, you know, everybody's standing on the strip saying, you know, we are engineers ready to work. We are dancers ready to work. We are bass players ready to work. And we're a huge community. And
I think a lot of people, when they think of Vegas and the music scene, they're thinking about kind of the main stage events, whether it's Celine Dion or Britney Spears, or for the longest time, Donnie and Marie. My God, they were up at the Flamingo for the longest time. I think the banner had gotten to be as old as I was, because it was still there like every time I ever went. But
still on the wall, yeah.
Well, and it's interesting, the geographic, I'm going to say, kind of it being a hub of entertainment as it was. And it's so different than the New York scene, because if you're working New York, you're looking at, you know, whether you can get a Broadway gig, or if, you know, you're playing some of the clubs. You know, if you are dedicated to rock, then that takes you out of a lot of places. You might be doing better at exactly the Stone Pony down at the Jersey Shore or something. And, you know, if you're on in the LA area, there's a lot more things, but there may be more studio work. There's not as many live venue kind of things. So Vegas was, again, I think a lot of people would take for granted how much music was constantly going on. Yeah. And for a working musician like yourself, with versatility, because that's really kind of the key thing. You had to be willing to say, sure, I'll play, you know, fill in the blank, you know, and not go, oh no, I don't ever, you know, like I won't play a wedding, or I won't play a
yeah. Yes, I will.
Yes.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Those pay so well. But it's not just that. It's you know, I did a live karaoke gig, and we had to learn about 270 songs for this gig. And it was from Monster Mash to Shake It Off.
Yeah.
Just, you know, King of the Road to Love Me Do to Dancing Queen to YMCA, because it's karaoke.
Yeah.
But, you know, that when the guy auditioned everybody, he auditioned me and he said, how would you feel if you had to learn these songs and you didn't get the gig? And I said, well, there's more songs in my belt, so I'm good. And it helps. I can be called on a day's notice to do a gig because I've been in this town so long. I can learn a whole show in a day. And, you know, I have like the bass box, and it's so funny because I practice with it all the time. I plug it in my bass. I could put this on the plane, put my headphones on, and learn a whole show on the way to the gig.
Wow.
So it's those things, those little Vox, you plug the earbuds in, you could hear the music and the bass and everything. It's fantastic. So I get to an airport because I'm trying to get to Tucson for a show. I'm running through the show in the airport. And if the plane's not full, I'm running through the show on the plane. So by the time I get there, I've already got it under my fingers and everything's great. So
gotcha. Wow.
There's that.
And it talks again to that flexibility, and it is interesting that you don't play with a pick, because so much of the rock people play with a pick. Now, it's funny because they are also, there's such strong feelings, and I don't know why, because it's all how you get your sound. But whether you play with
manipulating tone,
exactly. And you know, it's the same way that you get folks to get upset if they see more than 4 strings. You know, like, oh, Jocko only needed 4. And it's like, you know, so many books are set up for 5-string. You need to have that low B, the versatility. For the upright players, a lot are adding in a C extension to get to that low.
Because after the 80s, everything went drop D.
Yeah.
And then everything's, so that string is so, and it keeps everything in the box. I don't have to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And it helps when you're, you know, I was such an open note player. If you have to change tuning, how the hell do you do that with an open string?
Yeah. Well,
So I'm a fourth finger bass player. I'm a very heavy pinky player.
sure.
So that's usually my one is
Mm-hmm.
my pinky, which is super fun because it keeps everything in the box. So
Yeah.
my one and my octave, I'm totally backwards. Anyhow,
Yeah. Well, it's whatever works for you, right?
yeah. Honestly, yeah. 'Cause nobody can say, "Oh, you're playing that wrong." I hate it when somebody does that.
Yeah.
If it's my tone and my gig, and that's the sound that I have a nice fat low end with a nice. I like fret noise.
Mm-hmm.
I do because I'm a southern rock player, and the da ga da ga da ga da is really easy when you have that nice poppy fret noise to get those ghost notes in
Exactly.
there.
So coming back, there we go. Coming back to the whole tribute band thing as well, it's also really challenging because these are tunes that so many people have incorporated into the soundtrack of their life. And
Absolutely.
there's a real science and an art to being able to either kind of duplicate the original sound, where you kind of go, okay, we're going for trying to stay true to the original form, and this is going to be as close as it is, or making interpretation and making it your own. And in those instances, you'll have folks that'll go, that's not the way they did it. And I'll use, for example, you're playing with a Journey band. So many people have difficulty not hearing Steve Perry on as lead vocals. You know, he had such an iconic voice that when they recognize the song, they'll go, "Oh yeah, I like the song, but that's not Steve Perry playing."
Yeah. We have to. It's out of absolute respect for the group. If you're attributing them, you want to play what everybody knows. That's not you can people interpret stuff when they're doing cover band gigs.
Yeah.
That's a cover band gig. When you're doing a tribute act, people know all of the signature inflections and all of their signature riffs and their signature vocal cues and signature bass lines. Michael Anthony is one of the most underrated bass players. I'm a huge fan, and his technique is so underrated. Ross Valerie's technique is so underrated. And then, of course, I have to say, Randy Jackson's technique is so underrated.
Yeah.
And then there's Bill Montrose's bass player.
Yeah.
They're all different types and different techniques. And to get the song down, you know, like with the Sammy tribute, we'll go from Montrose almost all the way up till the circle, because we're in the realm of there isn't one song, a Sammy Hagar song. Everybody has a memory to at least one Sammy Hagar song. From heavy metal to I've Done Everything for You that he gave to, you know, Rick Springfield, to Piece of My Heart, Janis Joplin cover. There's always a Sammy Hagar. I'm a huge fan. So to be tributing him and his players, it's sheer joy to be able to, and to get his approval.
Sure.
Is absolutely, it's insane. Because hardly anybody I know has the approval of the actual artist, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Half of them did, for one, but the ones that aren't, you know, it's nice to get that acclaim from the actual person that you're attributing. And he threatened that he's going to be playing with us one day, which is super cool. And same thing, you know, I'm a firm believer in, if you hear it on the record and you remember it enough, you're going to hear it on that stage. That's the feeling that people want. You know, they don't want to hear, well, this is my this is how Separate Ways should have been started.
Yeah.
Seriously? It's a signature intro. It should be the same tone, the same tempo, everything. That's what people know. And I'm thankful to be working with some of the strongest female musicians in this state. And I won't work with any less, because that's what keeps me on my game. You know, I'm working with a bunch of female musicians that are just badass. They're not, I hate that when somebody says, you're really good for a girl.
Oh.
That is not, And I'm not like that, so I don't keep company like that, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of a musical snob. I appreciate when somebody's up and coming and they're working hard for it, and it's don't poop on my stage, basically. Have the same respect I have for it, and the artists that I follow. That's how come I can get up and if I've heard the song, I can play it. I might stumble through it until I get it under my fingers, but sure. It's because it means so much to me. When I hear a song, I'm the bass line. There's a reason for that bass line, mm-hmm. And I always say that there's a reason why the song should be in this key, because that's what made it. It's a happier song. Yeah. If you have to drop it down a whole step, well, it changes the whole mood of the song. It changes the feeling of the song. But I like it when we stay true to form. Mm-hmm. There's two sides of it. Neil Schon said, had I known the songs would be so famous, I probably would have taken more time in the solos, because he hacked his way through it. And he was like, damn, now I'm stuck with that. Yeah. But it was such a famous solo. Now he has to play it. Yeah. Every single time they play the song, his fault. So, but that's the thing. If Neil Schon has to play it, you should play it too.
Gotcha. So since we're talking about sound, and that's a really good point, and of course I can't help but to look at those Steinbergers. You got the dueling, the red and the blue. Yep. Tell us about your gear. How are you getting your sound?
Oh my goodness. Okay, well right now I'm endorsed by Gibson. Let me back up. I was initially endorsed by Ned Steinberger himself, because I was that little lady bass player playing Steinberger. Uh-huh. So when he sold Steinberger to Gibson, Epiphone, mm-hmm. I got grandfathered in, which was super nice. And now I'm riding with the spirits. I have this Synopsy XL2, so I do have the different stages of the Steinberger life. And now I am here with my favorite baby right here. This is the one I play with the 3-lockbox gig. Yes, 5 strings, go figure. Yeah. Because everything's low. I use my Steinberger Spirit, which is surprisingly a passive bass. The Synops is not. It has the piezo pickup. It's mm-hmm. got that nice growl on it. But they discontinued those. They have these Spirits, and surprisingly, they sound amazing. And with the Spirit, I have a Frankenstein cabinet. Yeah. It's a Carvin cab and the transformer burnout, and that's when Carvin was going through their transition. So I put an Ashdown head in it. It's the best sounding amp I've ever had. It's crazy. It weighs 10 million pounds, but the Ashdown tone is my favorite ever. Mm-hmm. And I've been playing about 25 years, and my little Frankenstein model is awesome. It sounds great. And that's what I use on the big stages. Vegas, you have small little amps, or you have to run direct, or all in ears. So when we get to use gear, oh my goodness, yeah. Steinberger basses. I have a Carvin cab, but it's an Ashdown head. It's only the speakers. It's Carvin, so it's straight Ashdown. I'm in love with them. My Boss tuning pedal, my chromatic tuner, everybody has that. Mm-hmm. My Sans amp, my little beautiful extra growly growl. I love my Sans. It's just a little basic one. And I have the Digitech Drop Tune, and it's super rad for that extra little and you just pop the little pedal for those songs that are tuned down, because people still do that. Yeah. For cover bands and stuff. And that's it. I'm a Sennheiser wireless gal. Everything ears, in-ear gal. The best in-ears on the planet is Everything Ear. I'm just telling you. They're amazing. And Dawn is the coolest rep ever. And yeah, I'm looking forward to using my gear again. Yes. I use my little Vox tuner thing mm-hmm. to practice, because it's the fullest sound. I can practice all day here, plug in my amp, and then have to have another speaker coming out of my phone, or it's all controlled through one little system.
With the Steinberger, does it use regular strings, or you have to use specific with the spirits?
Double ball.
Double ball strings.
But I also have an extension. I just put a new set of strings on, so I had to take it off. But coolest thing about the new Steinbergers, my friend designed this when he worked for Steinberger, by the way. It goes right on here. It's a little extension that's held on through Allen screws, and you could put a regular string in. So it's just a little extension, put your string in, cut the top off, and tune. And if not, you have the double ball in ones. So I have a choice.
You do
now.
And so who makes the strings that you're using?
Right now, well, I go through Steinberger strings because they still have them.
Yes.
Yeah, and Labella. Definitely Labella strings. And with this pandemic, you're getting whatever gauge they can send you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But gear has been really rough to find as far as like strings and bits and stuff. Mm-hmm. So a lot of companies, they had to put their employees on furlough. So I call and say, hey, I need some strings. They're like, yeah, I got one set of Labellas and that's what I got.
There you go.
I'm thankful for them. I'm so thankful. I'll take Bob strings right now. Hi, I'm Bob. I make strings.
Yes.
There was a company called musicyo.com a long time ago, and they had double ball and strings for like $10 a set. Didn't care. They're strings.
Yeah.
I think, I get it that, your strings do help your tone, but if you have a great amp and a great bass to begin with, you're good. I'm super excited about everything.
Yes. Yes. We're euphoric in the middle of the pandemic. It's all good. But kind of also coming back to your vocalist, I had the opportunity to see Masked Man in your video.
Oh, you saw my video?
Yes.
Okay.
And I get a real, I'm going to call it a heart vocalist kind of thing with your sound. Kind of like Wilson Sisters.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you.
Strong.
You know what I got? I usually get like Alanis Morissette meets Alice Cooper. I'm not sure. So I like your analogy. I like yours better. I like what you just said better. Much
good.
Better.
Good. So very interesting, again, video. Certainly a lot of people can relate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's part of what music does, is kind of tells our stories and makes us feel a little better about, whatever situation it is, whether it's the ups, the downs, the heartbreak. Absolutely. And, it's why music is so important.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. It's been, I'm trying to keep yourself relevant in this time. Sure. I got to do a magazine. I get to do you.
Yes.
I got a caricature.
Yes. So, and with the magazine, you were on the cover of Sin City Presents in May.
Yes. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah. Working it.
Yeah. I'm very excited about that. It was the annual women's issue, so I got to make the cover finally for this year.
Nice.
So that was nice.
Well, and
really
as we're talking, we have on our cover this month, we have Rhonda Smith in her superhero comic book. Artist from Marvel did the sketch of her on the cover.
I've always wanted that. Oh, she's so lucky.
So it is, and her you're gonna love this. Her hair is her strings, the bass strings. So it kind of like what you've done with your hair, but she's got the yes, it's like bass strings. So it's quite similar that way. But digressing.
Glow in the dark too.
Oh wow!
I'm like a child.
Well,
yeah, I look like a glowfish on stage. It's awesome.
Coming back to kind of like the main topic, nobody knows what the future particularly holds because of the pandemic, and we're in many instances working to try to get back to some state of normalcy. whether it be
Yeah.
kind of inching in little steps or kind of making, big steps and maybe blundering and having to step back. I mean, nobody absolutely knows, but kind of in a ballpark way, I'm sure your general plan would be to get back to as many gigs as you possibly can, right?
Absolutely. We're kind of on standby. We're like at the starting line. We're positioned, asses in the air. We're ready to go. And yeah, the second they open stuff up, I was supposed to be playing this weekend in Texas. And, I've had 2 gigs since March. So
Wow.
it's been really crazy, really crazy.
Gotcha.
So I'm thankful for those 2. We're getting there, though. It's getting there. I mean, if one more person asks me, when are you going to get a real job?
Oh,
I'm going to rip their throat out. Because honestly, if you think about it, all the years I spent training and learning my craft and honing it, and the money I've spent and the time and just everything. I can go to Joe Blow's job and learn their job within a week, maybe 2.
yeah.
They can't learn mine in 2 weeks. And so I don't know what warrants people to say a real job. But just because they're out there partying when I'm working, that doesn't mean that I don't have a real job. I have a very important job that makes people happy and gives people hope. I miss giving that to people. And then this whole no audience performance, I need that from the audience. It's a give and take that it helps us breathe. Mm-hmm. So it's very hard. It's hard sitting at home because I love people.
Sure.
My highlight is running into Walmart just to say hi to 10 people. That's crazy.
But coming back to in the future, is there any projects that you're kind of working on in the meantime? Or?
Well, we're still moving ahead with She Clips and with 3 Lock Box and the Vibe Cross Country Road. We're still rehearsing. We get together and rehearse, and we're just staying on our game. We're waiting for somebody to give us the okay that we can actually perform in front of people again, and we're going to be ready to go. So
Gotcha.
That's all we're doing right now. I'm writing still doing my originals, but to keep myself relevant, I have to stay on social media, and I have to stay working with these cover bands and doing promotion and all this stuff. That's super important right now.
Gotcha.
So,
and if people want to stay on top of what you're doing, the best place?
MerryAdin.com. And it doesn't look updated because I haven't had any shows.
Sure.
But my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, I think it's all connected. It should be all connected. I'm really horrible on computers, so I had a friend of mine help me out with designing all that stuff. I'm great on the stage. I'm not great like this. So.
Yeah. Well, if everybody needs a little help, is one of the in the classic Beatles songs, I'll get by with a little help from my friends, and it's realizing that you can't do everything, so if you've got somebody who's great at building websites and on computers, that's superb.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, Davey 504 is one of my biggest heroes. I love, he makes my day. He makes me smile every day, and he's so talented, and he's not a jerk, and but he's funny. He's so funny, and he keeps bass players relevant, if that makes sense. And he's like, "Show me this," and somebody shows a guitar, and he says, "That is a guitar."
Yeah,
unacceptable. I love that. I absolutely love that. I have no desire to learn the guitar. I wish I did during this pandemic, because nobody wants to hear me play my bass and sing all by myself. I'm not a Jocko player. I'm a solid, I'm not a jazz player. I'm a rock player, Southern rock player, top 40 player. That's me.
Gotcha.
I'm a visual entertainer, and I know 116 licks and I'm putting them in every song. I think that's super cool for what you do, but I'd rather perform for you than stand there and stare at my neck.
Absolutely. Well, and Mary, I am so hoping, I'm looking forward to things getting back to normal. Music, I think, is the one thing that is going to help get us through all of these hard times. And most of the musicians I talk to, I can't stress enough how this will survive. Music will survive all of the bad times. I mean, just think of it. It has historically. I know. Yeah. Music is the one thing that will still be there after all. Now, we may have to change some of the ways we go about it, but it is such an essential part of humanity that, we have to stay true to it. And when I get to hear somebody in Africa hammering out like a bass line on a one-string instrument he's built, I go, this is all still part of what we're doing. It's the magic of it. It's telling the story. And you're absolutely right. It is part of what makes us who we are. So I appreciate you taking time to chat with us. Folks, you've seen her here. Merry Adin coming to you live on Bass Musician Magazine.
Have bass will travel.